professor. So instead of doing a paper for the Reflection4 piece, I decided to do a video so I'd be able to express my ideas a little better to you. So to begin, I ended up taking inspiration from the mind map activities, and I basically just spewed all the things that I remembered from class onto the board. And right over here I have the presentations. So these are topics that I learned from the different presenters or the different lectures we had throughout the year. And then right here I have the activities, which basically just means the assignments or discussion boards. And then lastly, this last column, I put the 3 core ideas that I took from doing the 3 mind maps this year. And let me get into those real fast. So starting out with the presentations, I found all of these to be extremely useful to know. Not only going into the healthcare field, but also in your daily life, pretty much, you know. People in the healthcare field are going to be experiencing a wide range of people coming in and talking with them. So it's incredibly important to be able to utilize a bunch of these different skills. This includes having bedside manners and being able to communicate properly with your fellow associates or the patient, having a core sense of values and morals that you use to basically lead you through your decisions. So towards the very beginning of the semester, we covered just like the ground basis about professionalism and setting goals for yourself. Really useful because I basically found out what kind of career I wanted this year. So I wasn't able to, really like plan my life out. So learning strategies from the textbook and presentations was incredibly useful for me. I was able to sit down and actually think about what I want, how I'm going to accomplish that, and what I can do now. Additionally, it's really important also being emotionally intelligent. A lot of people don't realize that you have to understand yourself before you can learn to help others. So I'm really glad that we went over implicit bias, especially relating to the healthcare field, because if someone were to use discrimination against a certain race, gender, identity, or stuff like that, then that could lead to a lack of proper treatment for someone. I've actually heard a ton of news stories that cover instances where old-fashioned practicing doctors end up not taking women's cases very seriously. Like the women continue complaining about having abdominal pain or such. They can be easily dismissed because the doctor simply doesn't see it as a big concern, or they're like, oh, you're exaggerating it, or stuff like that. So that's why it's really important that we teach everyone who's becoming a professional soon about preventing biases in their practice. Additionally, I found Dr. Leanne Lowry's presentation to be incredibly insightful, not only for people who are specifically helping disabled people, but just in general so we know how to properly approach them. I could tell that she was trying to normalize the term and make people with disabilities seem less stigmatized and scary as the public likes to make it. Society seems to deem them as incapable and not being able to do stuff on their own or think properly, but this is incredibly untrue since there are such a large range of disabilities out there. I'm really glad she included on her presentation a list of old-fashioned and preferred terms, so you're able to see that instead of calling someone unfortunately bound to a wheelchair, you can use more progressive terms such as someone in a wheelchair. Just that simple switch of terminology will really help them sound more independent and capable of themselves. Alright, so moving on to the activities. So I remember in particular that one of the discussion boards focused on nearby organizations, and so I wrote about some public health facilities I found online, which was really useful actually because I'm new to Columbia. I'm from Texas originally, so I'm a little bit unfamiliar with Missouri. I also got to write about the roles within those professional organizations. I believe I wrote about epidemiologists, which is a branch off of public health, so that could potentially be a career of mine. I think that really helped me broaden my perspective on the responsibilities and the core information about this job. Also, I'm a heavily team-oriented person. I really thrive being in a group atmosphere. I love talking to people, love interacting with them and getting their ideas on such. So when we were talking about functional and dysfunctional teams, I really enjoyed seeing what kind of attributes the team should have or try to avoid. This will definitely help me in my academic and professional career. Now I know what types of skills and traits I need to start developing to be a more fluid team member. Although I'm pretty good at leadership, I definitely could do better with reaching out to others and meeting deadlines. So what I really liked about this class is that the discussion boards we did actually resonated with me, and I was able to remember the stuff I wrote about long term. Unlike during high school, we had like a million assignments that we had to cram in 1 week. I was actually able to take my time on this and research what I wanted and retain that information. So one of the activities I ended up enjoying the most was doing the career fair. And when I started looking for organizations I wanted to talk with, I thought I was just gonna do maybe 2 or 3 interviews, but I ended up doing 5 because I found a ton of places nearby that really interested me, and I wanted to hear from the representatives what they were about. This experience probably helped me pull together all these skills that I accumulated from both activities and the presentations so far. Firstly, I had to do some research over each organization and see what their broad message was before I met with their rep, because I wanted to go into the interview knowing how my goals align with theirs, but I still had questions about the specifics. And then also, as part of a discussion board, we were able to type in our questions that we were going to ask them and get advice from you and the other students. And then it was also nice because I was able to pick some questions from other people that I thought were really great for finding out more information. So I don't usually get too nervous during interviews because I've had a couple job ones in the past, but it was definitely different going over Zoom, not being able to really accentuate your emotions as much using your hands and gestures, but I found the experience really eye-opening. I really like talking to those people, and the whole reason I actually downloaded LinkedIn and made an account is because of the career fair. So fortunately, I was able to look up all the representatives I talked to for each facility, and I added them on LinkedIn, and now I'm up to several people on there and broadening my network. So lastly, I have the mind maps, and this was a whole different category of stuff. I've actually never really done something like this before. I've seen stuff like this in textbooks, but usually my teachers just skip over it and we don't really look into it at all. But sitting down and writing all my thoughts out, not worry about it being perfect or being organized, was actually really relieving. As I wrote on the board, I was able to focus primarily on my professional, academic, and personal goals. And luckily, since we looked at how to set goals in the past, I was able to easily apply it to here. So after doing the first mind map, I realized that this isn't something that I should cater to anyone else. I shouldn't put what people would expect of me. I should put simply what I think I should do and what's important to me specifically as a professional. Even though I'll definitely be working on my personal growth in the future, it's also important to self-reflect on yourself and see what you think is lacking or doing well. So when I was writing the mind maps, I basically split them up into 3 different clouds of thoughts. The first one being what I can do now as a college student at Mizzou right now. And then also what I can do in the future. This could be 1 year from now, this could be 3 when I'm a graduate student, or later on in my career, it could be any of that. And then lastly, I put who I can contact. This is pretty important for a ton of reasons. So for this last category, my train of thought was, all right, so I have the LinkedIn and I'll be able to remain in contact with people I met at the university, maybe someone I've worked in research with, my professors, such and such. But also they could recommend me to people they know in their own social network that maybe will help me get a leg up in my career goals. So keeping contacts and building your own networks is important. So even though I didn't quite do it in the past as much as a high school student, I'm taking the time now in college to really prioritize staying in contact with the people I want to and making new networks so that I can learn more and then get closer to my future career. So in all, currently my future career goal is to work at either FEMA or the CDC, and I have 2 career goals that are split into 2 different branches essentially. One of them is working as a environmentalist with FEMA or as an epidemiologist with the CDC. I'm really hoping to work with a big organization who has the funds to help out thousands of people nationwide. So I'm pretty hard-headed about the motto, if you want something to change, then you have to do something to change it. And I feel like I'll be able to definitely apply that to some of my goals and getting towards them. I'm really glad I was able to take this class and not only further my knowledge of the healthcare field, but also learn new strategies and work on my personal growth. Even though we were on an online basis, I still had a really great time getting to know you and the other classmates. I hope you have a great break and happy holidays.
Here's what my advanced recording studio looked like behind the scenes.